Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in. And as it was said, my name is Ben Tice, owner and director of Skol Marketing. We help owner and founder-led companies get online with web development and establish their online presence, as well as enhancing that online presence with digital marketing like SEO, SEM, social media, all that kind of stuff. But my favorite part of my job is partnering with great organizations like Score and being able to present on different types of digital marketing topics so that if you guys are deciding to do these internally or externally, you kind of have the knowledge to be able to manage that effectively. So today we're going to be talking about the power of video and how to grow your business with video. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. As it was said before, is feel free to chat in any questions. We will be, monitoring that and answering those. A lot of them we most likely will get to the end, but please make sure to kind of do that, as well as to know that this is being recorded. And so you not only will get a copy of the presentation PDF slides, you'll also get a video recording of this as well to kind of help you reference that. So with that said, let's go ahead and kind of jump in and let's talk about video. So today what we're going to talk about is just kind of the growth of video, just kind of throw a bunch of stats at you guys, but just to kind of show you the importance of this, that honestly, no matter if you are a small business, medium business, large business, if you're B2B, if you're B2C, if you're online only, if you're offline with online, that really video should have a part into your strategy. And so we'll talk a little bit about kind of navigating YouTube. We'll just spend a little bit of time briefly on that, but then we're really going to get into implementing YouTube and kind of the impact of video on SEO, really talking about, okay, let's create some videos, but now how do we actually give us the best opportunity to get the most out of these different resources and these different pieces of content that we've created. And then we'll also finish up with also talking a little bit about social media video. It's not just a YouTube game anymore, which again, not gonna lie, adds a little bit more extra things for us to do. But when we're looking at getting the most ROI and getting the most out of these pieces of content, we wanna at least know about and most likely utilize every distribution channel out there. And so we'll talk about social media and how that's a little different and how we should have that be a part of our strategy. But until we get there, let's first kind of start out with just the growth of video. So there's just a few of these that I kind of want to touch base on. But one of them, and this honestly some of this might be even eye-opening or again, an indicator of why is video important. So 68% of consumers say that watching a product video makes them more confident in online purchase decisions. So honestly, we're having over 2/3 of people tell us that watching a product video positively influences their decision to make a purchase potentially right on your website right there. 46% of people have purchased directly due to watching a video. So almost half of people have been able to do that. And here's actually a really big one, which is sometimes kind of funny, especially with developers and kind of a techie, again, kind of background that I have, is that 2/3 or 66% of people say that they prefer watching a video to reading about products or services. This is very similar to when we talk about kind of mobile usage compared to desktop usage. It's kind of funny because we spend a lot of time building a website on a desktop and may forget that majority of people are going to view it on a mobile device. We spend all this time building a site and building all this content for that, which again, you still want to do, and just same thing with desktop and mobile, you still want to have a desktop version, but we spend all this time kind of creating this static word content when in fact studies are now showing that 2/3 of people, the majority of people, actually would rather watch a video and have that message be delivered to them via video than actually them gleaning it themselves by reading it. So really kind of some powerful things to really kind of talk about, and we'll get into how this plays into SEO. But as you can kind of see, these are really big marketing type of stats and analytics and strategies that we can really look to put into our efforts and our marketing overall. And another one too to kind of help, and this kind of goes back to, if you guys have seen our presentations before, honestly, even if you've just experienced digital marketing, we know that a lot of these things work together. SEO works with social media, which, again, which works with our website, which works with all these different types of digital marketing aspects. Well, this last stat is another one that also kind of does that, saying that an average user spends 88% more time on a website that has video. So when we embed a video into our website, we now get the average user spending 88% more time on there. And it would be kind of interesting. You can actually track all this within Google Analytics. So these are some things that you can actually even set your own benchmarks and see what changes there. Now, obviously, they're probably watching the video there, but what's kind of nice is if we get them on our site and we get them longer on their site, we get them more comfortable with our site. We control that environment 100%. Yes, it's great if they watch it on YouTube and social media, but really a key thing can be if they watch it on our site, because again, you control that entire experience. And now they're spending 88% more times. So these stats are really powerful, not only from a maybe convincing us why videos are important, but then also how can we get the most out of those videos? Or also, and you'll hear me kind of talk about this, is kind of how do we reuse some of the content that we've been doing? How do we reuse some of the efforts we've already been doing? And it may be, again, taking something we've already done and making a video out of it to try to maximize our reach, which again, I'll get into as we go along. So the first thing though is we put this into the presentation because I had a lot of people start asking, well, Ben, where do I start? And so the idea here, just to make sure that we understand where we're kind of coming from, is I'm not talking about that you need to go hire a film crew for all these videos. Now, again, film crew videos can be great. And we'll, again, on the next slide, you'll actually see that as a potential option. But it is understanding that you can do a lot of this kind of amateur filmmaking and make really good videos with the technology we have today, both software and hardware, meaning both like, again, the mobile devices we may have in our pocket, or for instance, the computer that I'm giving this presentation on, or some of like the editing apps or things out there, like even iMovie. And it literally, if you, Adobe Premiere, even Canva has some different, animation things, and we'll get into some of these recommendations. But the idea is there's so many different types of software out there that a lot of times, again, you can look to kind of take control of this, or maybe even someone internal. But as you're starting to set up with videos, very similar, like we kind of say is, when you want to prep for yourself for SEO, if you've taken my course there, one of the things I tell you to do is start to make lists of your services, your demographics, and let's start to plan it out. If you fail to plan, your plan will fail. And so the idea, the same thing with videos, is let's set up a plan. So the first thing is kind of setting up is, okay, who am I speaking to? Am I speaking to a potential customer? Am I speaking to a already customer? Maybe I'm speaking to an internal employee. Maybe I'm making training videos. You can see that there's a ton of different ways that we can use video here, but we need to understand who are we speaking to. Then the other thing is just doing some prep work. Understand what we're going to talk about, what we're going to do, and obviously you'll probably get some ideas on how to kind of utilize that throughout the presentation. We just want to kind of prepare. Also, just some basic things, make sure you're understanding your environment and surroundings. That might be the mic with sound, that might be lighting, that might be, again, a couple different types of things, but just be considerate about that. And here's the other thing that I like to kind of tell people, and you might see me kind of repeat this a couple times, is, again, these videos don't have to be, we're not trying to win awards here. We're not trying to win an Oscar with the, videos that we're doing. We obviously don't want them to detract from our brand. And that's why prepping these things, making sure we're considerate about our, environment and surroundings is very critical, but also realizing that these aren't going to probably be perfect. But believe it or not, sometimes that actually can benefit us, because depending on your demographic, depending on your brand, a lot of times that can even play into sometimes the localization or local marketing too. And like we kind of talked about the here, I kind of alluded to it, but get the tech. So, again, you can get a mic, you can get, again, AirPods if you have them, you can get, honestly, a little mic on Amazon, and you can spend $20, $50, $100 and get a serviceable type of equipment that is really can really elevate again, your production value without adding, significant costs. Same thing with lighting. Just make sure we have, appropriate lighting. I'm sure we've all seen like the different ring lights, and you can Google different types of lighting, and maybe you have different types of lighting, white light, soft light, all that kind of stuff. Some of that's just going to be dependent on what the video is, depending on what your surroundings are. It's just being cognizant of some of these things that for low investment, you can a lot of times get high production. While we're filming, just some things to kind of keep in mind. Be engaging. Who wants to watch a boring video? You may consider yourself boring, but just, fake it till you make it a little bit, smile a little bit, add a little bit, potentially humor. Now, obviously, some of this may play into your, again, your industry, your demographic, your things like that. Obviously, if you're a divorce attorney, you're probably not going to be smiling in humor. Maybe you go that route, but obviously you have to be considerate about, again, what you're talking about, who your demographic is, and kind of the niche that you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, make sure that you are being yourself. A lot of times people can really kind of see through that. And like I kind of just talked about too, is that authenticity, even if it's not 100% perfect, can really be beneficial to a lot of people's different demographics. But one really good thing to kind of do, or actually two little real big takeaways here, is make sure you understand that a lot of times people, when they're watching videos that aren't like how to, or they're getting ready to sit down like a presentation like this, is that a lot of times you have about 5 to 10 seconds to hook them. So if your intro is boring, most likely you're going to lose some people. And we'll actually talk about how you can even track that as we go forward. But make sure you realize that you've got about 5 to 10 seconds to hook somebody. Also, you want to make sure at the end of the video, so now we're talking, both sides of the video here, we want to hook them in the first 5 to 10, but also at the end of the video, every person should walk away with there knowing what they should do next. You should never create a video, no matter what it's for, and not have some type of call to action. Now, the call to actions could be different. Call us, sign up now. Maybe it's even learning, again, like go here to learn more. There's always some type of call to action. What should they do next after they watched your video? That's ultimately what we want to kind of get out of it at the end. And last but not least is, if you are using mobile devices, remember to always try and turn your phone. This is going, unless you're doing a social media live video, which again, we'll get into at a later point, but most of your videos most likely are going to be wanting to live long-term or things like that. And you want to make sure that you turn it, because then we don't get those big black bars on the sides of like YouTube videos and other type of video players. And ultimately it's just going to play better. Also, just some little kind of tips of, okay, so what types of videos should I create? What are some different kind of ideas? Because again, like a lot of times I talk to small businesses and we have these kind of false preconceived notions that the only videos that we should be doing or that I can do is hiring a film crew for thousands of dollars and kind of come in and potentially being scared or not having the budget to do that. Well, again, that is one type of video, and I don't mean to scare people off that, because professional videos can absolutely be beneficial, can really elevate your game. But that's just really one type of video. We also have, point of view or mobile videos, taking your mobile device here and creating different videos. Maybe that's a little stand. Maybe that's holding it. Obviously, that goes back into kind of the prep and some of the tech or some of the equipment that we might be able to utilize. A webcam, I'm utilizing that right now. And as you guys saw at the beginning of the, recording, or probably heard it, it said that it was recording this, video. So using a webcam potentially to be able to make videos or content. Also, there's another way too. Obviously the thing with those first three is you are on camera. I sometimes have come across people that said, Ben, I understand that I should do this. I hate being on camera. I'm very, again, trepid right now to be able to kind of do that. That's okay. You can actually create maybe some other videos where you're not on camera, infographic videos, customized stock videos. So two ones that that I can kind of give you is, one is called Powtoons. That's a video kind of platform where you can actually they have different themes and you can kind of little different cartoons. Also promo video. So with Powtoons and promo video, there are some options where you don't have to be on camera. You can actually take kind of a theme and then customize it and figure it out into your brand, into your message, have that call to action, engage people in 5 to 10 seconds. Also iMovie and things like that. What I'm trying to say here is there are options if you don't want to be on camera, or if this is something that, what's also kind of nice is sometimes it is nice to get our feet wet with kind of creating some of these videos. I've seen people kind of create some of these videos to kind of get their feet wet that they also use for marketing, but then they also use that as a preparation to then do a live video at a later point as they get more comfortable with speaking or seeing how that message is delivered onto their infographic, stock video, cartoon, iMovie, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see that there's different production types. Also, then there's different styles, and you can see how you can continue to mix these. It really is like an unlimited number of different, videos that you can do here. So one is, very structured for business, commercial or service, kind of your value prop, type of style. Also behind the scenes, especially if you're a product-based business, a lot of times that's of interest. There's a whole show called, How It's Made, that just literally is a whole show that does that. So obviously there's interest there, and it's kind of fun to kind of see that. Also, here's another really good way. This is sometimes what I start with people is sometimes people still have a roadblock of, well, Ben, that just sounds just like a mountain to climb. I don't know what to do. I say, hey, why don't you take one of your blog posts that you wrote previously? You already put effort into it. You already were answering a question. And why don't you create a video around it? Now, obviously, don't just open up your webcam like this and just read it verbatim. Have a conversation, maybe do a little bit different style, but take one of your blogs and now make that into a video. I kind of alluded to this at the beginning, but you can see how you can start to, mix this in with your static content or your written content on your site, because then we have a third of the people that like to read your content. Also, Google really likes to read content as well. But then we also can service the 2/3 of people that would rather have a video deliver that message to them, and we can do that with there as well. And you kind of mix those two strategies together. Also, informational resource, how-to videos. Again, if you're an auto mechanic, one of the strategies is, again, just like how we do in blogs, showing people or telling people how to do things. So maybe it's, hey, how do you change oil? How do you, fix a flat tire? You can figure out some informational resource type of videos that you can do. Also, you can do some fun, again, quick ones, like for an update to your, again, maybe celebrating you guys turned 5 years old in your business. Maybe you have a big grand opening, something like that with your event. So just giving you some ideas. Obviously, there's different ones out there. There's even more than I have here. But the idea is just to kind of get your brain kind of turning on the different types of videos and the production style. And the idea is that you could do a commercial or service video. You could have a professional one done. You could have a mobile one done. You could have a laptop one done. You can do multiple of them. And then last but not least, and again, this is something I also reiterated earlier, was to repurpose your content. Again, going back to the blog example, if you've already put in the time, effort, and money to, again, create blogs, to create content on your site, use that as a basis to get the most out of it. You already have ideas for videos, and you already essentially have a script or a script layout with a blog or a page or a website or any of those types of things that you've already put into there. And also vice versa. If you decide maybe you make a video first, well, hey, maybe we should write a blog about that. Maybe we should make that into a social post, which again, we'll get into later in the presentation. But again, just always remember to try to repurpose your content or your content messaging as much as possible. Get the most out of it. Increase your ROI as much as possible. Okay. So now switching a little bit into, okay, say we've got the different videos kind of created. We've done different, mobile ones and graphic ones and things like that. Now it's a matter of, okay, now how do we take those videos and make them work for us via SEO, via marketing, via all these different types of really distribution channels that we have. We've got the videos created. Now what do we do with them? And really the first step that a lot of times I like to introduce to people, and we should be utilizing, at least be either the focus or at least a main part of your digital marketing and video strategy, should be YouTube. So some of you guys may not know, but YouTube is actually the second largest search engine in the world, obviously behind Google, but Google owns YouTube. So they have number 1 and number 2. So while there are other video platforms out there, and yes, you can use Vimeo or Dailymotion, there's other ones, again, out there, you absolutely should be utilizing though YouTube when we start talking about ROI and marketing and SEO and the value out of it. Absolutely should at least be having this be kind of the focus, or at least a big part of it, because of the value and because it's the second largest search engine in the world. Of course, we all know that they have a mobile and computer platform. Again, they reach more US adults, 18 to 34 than any cable network, all those other kind of things. But really at the end of the day, it's a super important platform, and it's something you absolutely need to be utilizing. Okay, so just real quick as we go, just a couple of things that I'll just kind of say is when you're navigating YouTube, usually the left side of your screen is going to be external, your channel and your profile. This is where like your watch history, your different subscriptions, all that kind of stuff. How to access your channel though is in the upper right-hand corner. The biggest thing that I just want to kind of mention here with this, and why I even, again, talk about this, is always make sure you're logged into the correct channel when you're uploading videos, because you cannot transfer videos from one channel to the other. The only way to do that is to delete one from one and then upload it to the other. So all the work that you may have done, optimizing your videos, which we're going to get into here, showing you guys how to do, all of that will be for naught if you do that. Also, you'll lose all of your views, all your comments. So just make sure that you are logged into the right channel. Also, if you don't have a channel for your business, what you'll want to do is you can actually just go in, here you'd look under switch account and you would click that, and then you'd be able to create a new channel. And it will actually even ask you, is this a personal channel or are you trying to create a business channel? Obviously, if it's for a business, you want to make sure that you keep those under a business channel. You can go and change some of that stuff if you've already done some of this. So that might be something to kind of look at, and we'll get into where you get some of the account settings. But just make sure, again, that you're logged into the right channel and that you have a business channel for your business. Now, uploading videos. So you can kind of see back here, if I just go, you can kind of see the little purple box with the camera icon in it. You can click that. I'll just go over this real briefly, but a lot of times what you can do is you can just upload your video there. What you're going to get is you're going to get kind of a details, video elements, and visibility. So we're going to go over these kind of step by step, but you can kind of access this information in two ways. When you're trying to upload a video initially, you essentially can get at all of this information that we're going to talk about in the subsequent kind of screens on how to optimize your video. You can do that right away as you're uploading the video. You can also, though, maybe if you forget or you just want to get it up and come back, maybe for instance, you're listening to this saying, well, Ben, I already have 27 videos. Can I go back and optimize those? Yes. So you can always go back and optimize your videos, just like you can always go back and optimize your website. So just because you had something previously doesn't mean you can't go and optimize it. So this is just understanding that, again, you just want to get your videos into YouTube one way or the other, but you can also do some of this stuff as you're going along. One question that sometimes throws people is there is a question on YouTube that says, is this video made for kids? So really what we're talking about here is YouTube and Google have a platform called YouTube for Kids. And so YouTube Kids is obviously videos that are just catered, a lot of the cartoons, a lot of kid characters. The thing with this though is you have to think about, is your main demographic of your video for kids? If yes, then again, click the box and say yes. If no, that's okay. It doesn't mean it's a negative thing. It doesn't mean that could a kid watch that and not be offended? Is this inappropriate for kids? That's not what this is asking. That's the only reason I bring this up is because a lot of people sometimes assume that what they're asking is this appropriate for kids? That's not what they're asking. They're saying, is the main demographic of your video for kids? I would assume that most of us listening to this, there's probably not, but there might be some out there, and we've worked with clients that, they do have videos for kids out there as well. So just to kind of know what that kind of essentially means. Also, when we get into the back end, there is a YouTube studio. It used to be called Creator Studio. So just in case you ever see that terminology, it's called YouTube Studio now. This is where we can kind of get some tips. We can get all of our videos, our channel settings. We can go to our analytics. It's just essentially just a simple dashboard. Pretty kind of cut and dry. One thing though is, we kind of talked about this previously, is getting into the kind of settings of our channel. We can kind of change some of these things. So if you're just recreating one, or if you've never spent some time in here, spend some time and go through your channel settings. You'll be able to kind of go over just the general kind of the name and everything of your account. So again, maybe you've had a YouTube account for the past 10 years and you're like, oh shoot, I should change this to the business one and I should rename it to be the official business name. Well, we can do that in the settings here. You can also then put in different keywords for your actual channel. You can connect this to Google Analytics or Google AdWords. You can also add some different types of branding things. So maybe you want to watermark some of your videos. So you can do these types of things in the channel settings. They're pretty kind of cut and dry. They're pretty easy to understand. So I just tell people, if you haven't taken the time to ever look in your channel settings, take the 5 to 10 minutes, go through them, just make sure everything is kind of set. Another big one is also called permissions. And you can see that on the left-hand side there. This is really key and really obviously just nice that you can actually share access to your YouTube channel without having to give up your login. So if you're working with a marketing agency like us, if you're working with employees internally, externally, whatever it may be, you can just access and give somebody, access that way and share your channel via channel settings. So again, one of those things to kind of take some time and to be able to kind of do. Usually once it's set though, you're probably not going to go back in there, or very seldom will you have to go back in there. Okay, so the YouTube Studio Video Manager, this is where all your videos are going to house. So after they all upload, this is where you're going to see all this, and we can go individually into each video. If you have a bunch of videos already up there, you're most likely going to go individually one by one, and you're going to utilize the strategies that we're going to talk about here today to implement onto your videos to help you optimize them for SEO and optimal performance. If you are just uploading new videos, most likely you're going to do this stuff right away when you see the uploader that I kind of showed you a couple screens ago. So again, it doesn't matter if you do it right away or later, you're going to see the same options. It's just a matter of if you do it right away or at a later point. Okay. So when we're looking at YouTube, there are essentially 5 main sections to every video. So when you go into a video, you have 5 main things to look at and to potentially edit, optimize, whatnot. So we have details, analytics, editor, comments, and subtitles. Now we're not going to talk about all of these. Again, comments are going to be the comments on your video. Analytics are going to be the analytics of course, your video, who's watching it, all that kind of stuff. We'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later here too. The ones we're really going to focus though on are details, the editor, and subtitles. This is really where you can, again, optimize your video for optimal SEO performance and also just, again, from production value. There actually are some free editing software type of tools that you can utilize within YouTube that, again, are completely free, and you can help to improve your video and the production quality of it. Okay, so the first thing though is this is really, directed towards SEO and trying to give your videos the best possible opportunity to rank better. Also thinking about that all the stuff we're going to be talking about here with YouTube and everything is going to be directed towards, let's give Google more and more information so that they know what our video is about, that they can connect it to our, again, our channel, which is connected to our website. Very similarly, again, this is very similar to think about if you create a blog page or a service page on your website, you want to optimize that page. The same type of methodology and same type of benefits are going to come from that. So the first thing is looking at the title. A lot of times when we upload a video file, as we all probably know, it probably says, again, G1276.mov. Obviously, that's not going to be a suitable name. So what we want to do is, for optimal performance and optimal recommendations, is to look at trying to split our video into 3 kind of components. The first is a short keyword and description, or short phrase of what our video is. So try to obviously describe what your video is in a phrase. Now, again, like, that's not a sentence, that's not there. You don't have to worry about all, punctuation or things like that. But in a short phrase, try to have a keyword or 2 in that description of showing, again, or telling someone what that video is about. Also, if you are locally based or your demographic is local, then you want to have a location attached to it. Now, again, if you are nationwide or worldwide and location's really not particular to you, that's okay. You can leave that off as well. But if you are, this can be super powerful, and you'll kind of see this as we go along, because these videos can start showing up on Google searches, and this can help your SEO. So if you do have a location kind of specific or location kind of demographic, that might be something to kind of look at and to kind of put that into your keyword laden title. And then last but not least is you should have the, again, the name of your company at the end of it as well. So now part of this also, you may ask yourself, well, Ben, what about punctuation or anything like that? You can use dashes, you can use pipes, you can use colons. It doesn't really matter. It's just trying to kind of separate these 3 kind of pieces. And ultimately, a lot of times you do want to start with the phrase, again, the description phrase of the video, then move into location, then move into your company name. So now once we get that one's a little bit more cut and dry because we have limited space. And again, it's kind of cut and dry. It's, location, company, video. When we get into the long keyword laden description of the video, this is where we can, again, add a lot more information. And this is honestly what I see the most, where people, again, don't take full advantage of it. So we also want to split this thing into 3 different pieces. The first is a call to action with the URL. So what a lot of times you want to do, and you want to start with this one, because every YouTube video, if it's on a mobile device or a desktop, is only going to show about a sentence or 2 of space at the top, and then it's going to cut it off and say, read more. So what you want to do is, again, we talked about every video should have a call to action. Well, this can really kind of help emphasize that within the description area. That's automatically going to be shown and not going to be hidden with the read more section. So what we want to do is have some type of call to action with the URL. So maybe find out more about this service, schedule an oil change today, purchase this, again, healing oil now, whatever the call to action is. And then you want to, submit or paste in there a URL. Now, the one thing you want to remember is we want it to be the ugly URL, which means it has to have the https://. If you just do skolmarketing.com or www.skolmarketing.com, it's not going to be a hyperlink. It's just going to be text. So make sure you have your call to action with an ugly URL. And that is going to be then your, again, link that someone can actually, it's a live link that someone can click and go to your website to potentially, again, complete that call to action. You also then want to do a description of your video. So this, a lot of times I tell people, is, around 3 to 6 sentences. You want to describe what is this video about. So expand a little bit on this. Remember, you're not only doing this for the user to know what this video is about, you're also doing this for Google. So just, again, describe what the video and what someone's going to get out of your video in about 3 to 6 sentences. It's okay. You have about a 5,000 character limit. So, and characters mean every letter, punctuation, space, anything like that. But also keep in mind that you most likely are not going to run into that that limit. So you can, if you want to go more than 6 sentences, great, do it. And then also, last but not least, is on the bottom of it, you want to have kind of a boilerplate description of your company. So, again, usually this is kind of a shorter description. Maybe you use on your about page, on your footer, on your Facebook page, wherever it might be, but you kind of want a boilerplate kind of description that you're using for all of your videos that kind of describe what your company does. So we're going to compare the call to action with URL, with the description of the video, with our boilerplate company description, and we're going to kind of complete our whole description, our video description, excuse me, within there. Also, a couple notes too is you might see something that says tags or keywords. These are kind of meta tags. These aren't utilized on YouTube anymore. This used to be something where you could actually just fill it in with keywords that kind of help Google understand what your video is about. They aren't utilized anymore. This is the only thing you want to do with this is if you have common misspellings of your name, this is a good spot to kind of put that in. So again, if people kind of mispronounce, misspell, do those types of things with either your product, your service, or your company, you can go ahead and put those into meta tags, but really just think about utilizing it for that. If you fill it with other stuff, it's fine. It's not going to hurt you. It's just not going to help you. And then last but not least is your custom thumbnail. So if you're familiar with YouTube, you'll know that YouTube gives you 3 options for a thumbnail. And a lot of times, again, they're just kind of snippets or, obviously a screenshot of a certain part of your video. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So you can actually upload custom ones, and this might be something you even experiment with. Maybe some videos you just, again, take, a screenshot or one of the ones that Google does, and maybe it's like you're seeing here with me, and it's just, a live person one. You can also create your own thumbnail. So maybe you want to go in and Photoshop or something like that and actually create your own. You can do that and kind of, test some of those and maybe see the effectiveness of them. We've done that with clients where we've kind of A/B tested different styles or different types of custom thumbnails. And believe it or not, it can have an impact. So might be something to kind of consider, might be something to kind of look at as well. Okay, so now looking at the editor. So these are things which are really kind of cool that, again, free tools and editing tools that you can do on YouTube to be able to kind of enhance your video. So the first is being able to trim your video. So a lot of times, you may have an introduction or an ending and we kind of need to, splice or kind of cut down our video. Well, again, you can go ahead and do that. Now, I know a lot of if you open your video on your Mac or your other computer and you have, QuickTime Movie Maker, they'll do it too. So again, trimming isn't the most expansive type of, tool out there, but it is kind of nice that it's built in. You can simply do it and then save it and it automatically kind of trims it for you. Also, another kind of cool feature is called the blur feature. So this is where you could potentially, maybe you blur out someone's face. Maybe, again, if you're outside and you're walking around outside and doing some stuff, maybe you blur out license plates or addresses or things like that. It just allows you to be able to kind of blur. I've even had this where I was giving a presentation, I didn't realize it, and I had a text pop up in my upper right-hand corner. Well, again, I went on to YouTube afterwards and I made sure I did a blur, so that kind of blurred out there, and learned from my lesson, again, for next time to be able to kind of check that stuff. But I'm saying those are the different types of things that you can kind of blur. So they can be useful in different situations, and you can kind of just put a blur over just a portion of your video. Obviously, it's not the whole screen, and so you can kind of play around kind of with that. So the next one is audio. This one, honestly, this is something that you can really do to elevate your video production value. So what audio does is Google has about 150,000 plus different copyright-free, keyword there, copyright-free different jingles and music and songs and things like that. So what you can do is you can put these on your videos and you can position them so they don't have to be the whole video. You can also fade them in, fade them out, either at the beginning, the end portions of your video. And like I said, you can really elevate your production value in your video to take it to the next level with that audio on there. Like, I'll give you an example. I have a client that does Christmas tree and just Christmas lighting decoration, just for houses and trees and things like that in different residential and commercial. Well, a lot of times what they'll do is every winter, they'll actually have, just like one of their employees kind of go around and they have a little like a stand or whatever, and they just take some video on their phone of the different lightings and as they're up. Well, they'll send those to us, but the one thing is they look really nice, and maybe we'll trim them, maybe we'll do some stuff like that, maybe we'll blur if something's there. But the one biggest thing though too is we have all this background noise, and it kind of takes away from, again, watching the video. So what we can do is we can strip all that crowd noise and the dogs barking or anything like that out, and then we can put in like a little Christmas jingle, and now we've elevated that video. So that is something that you can look to do. And really, this is something that I encourage you to really kind of play around with, because any video can be enhanced with audio. And I think that's one of the keywords too, is we'll kind of get into this with subtitles as well just next. But anytime you're adding an audio component to your video, is you should always create your videos that audio is an enhancement, not a requirement for a video. And what I'm talking about and that will lead into kind of copyrights, or closed caption and things like that. But again, you want to try to make sure that all of your audio, if it's a jingle, even if it's the words that you're speaking, are just, again, enhancing your video, aren't required for it. Because there's a lot of situations where people may not be able to hear or listen to your video. And that's why we want to make sure that's there, but also it can enhance it and, elevate it. Another really cool one, and remember I talked about that we want a call to action at the end of every one of our videos. You can build that into your video, or you can also add that to your video via what's called an end screen on YouTube. So you can kind of set up, they have different kind of templates, but you could tell people, oh, hey, you should watch this video next. Hey, you should look at this playlist of videos. Subscribe to my channel, check out my channel. Some people, again, you have to kind of be verified and there's some restrictions, but you can even have a link possibly that then links them out. Now, this doesn't mean that it's replacing some of the other things that we talked about. You probably still should have a call to action in your video. You still should have a call to action in your description of your video, but you can see that as we add more and more of these things, we get to control the environment and we get to kind of lead the user and the viewer of this video to where we want to go. That's ultimately what we're kind of talking about here and what we're looking at here, and that's what end screens are. Okay, subtitles and closed captioning. This is, again, a really kind of critical one. And so this kind of goes back to that, yes, a lot of videos you're most likely going to be speaking, and you may think, well, hey, speech is a requirement. As I'm watching your workshop, Ben, it's a requirement that I hear you. Well, not necessarily. Obviously, we know that you can read via subtitles and closed caption and be able to do that. So this is important for your videos too, to also kind of elevate them, not only to help people that either can't because of environmental or situational, or because maybe of a disability, can't listen to your video and now still be able to get the messaging and glean that out of the video. But also this can actually help you with SEO and communicating to Google what your video is about. So pretty much now all YouTube videos have a automatic kind of closed captioning. Again, Google is sophisticated enough, and they've been that way for a few years, where they can essentially, as the video is going, they can automatically just have closed captioning on it. I'm sure we've seen this. I'm sure we've experienced this in some way or some fashion. But here's kind of the thing though, is you are just kind of, again, relying on Google, and Google still makes a lot of mistakes just because it is a system. We all talk different. We all have different dialects, different accents and things like that. So it a lot of times is beneficial for you to kind of take that control into your hands. Again, that C word, control, being able to take that into your hands and be able to kind of control that aspect of it. Now, how we do that is we can actually upload a script of our video. Now, here's a couple different ways to kind of look at this. There is a way that you can actually type while you're viewing your video, and it kind of stops as it sees your keys. So you can go ahead and type out your script. If you're working with a professional film crew, they're most likely going to supply that for you. Or a way that a lot of times we utilize, and one that I'd recommend, is using something like Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. And what Fiverr does is you're pretty much just having a contractor that just goes out and watches your video and just gives you a script of it. And a lot of times they're anywhere from $5 to $20, obviously, depending on what you're looking for, depending on the length of your video. But I'm saying a lot of times it's usually probably worth the money and saving the amount of time for you to be able to try to type that out, format that file, and then upload it to Google / YouTube. So a lot of times we will utilize Fiverr, where we just get these different closed captioning and subtitles files. I go into YouTube and we upload them. So something to kind of consider. Again, there's different ways to be able to get this done, but look at those different ways. Even if they're being supplied by you, by a video crew, you decide to type them out yourself, or you get someone else, either internally or externally, to kind of be able to do that. This not only has, again, a marketing benefit and just being able to make sure everyone can glean the message out of your video, there also is an SEO benefit to it as well. One other thing that some people don't realize, I just like to kind of mention, is that you can do live events on YouTube. It's just kind of fun, just like most live streaming, and there's a lot of them out there, but YouTube just has one. It's completely free. You could do a live chat. Also, what's kind of nice is after YouTube live video, it automatically turns it into a YouTube video. So once the live event's done, it can just drop it right into your channel, or you can then kind of edit it too if you'd like, all of that kind of fun stuff. You also get some of the live analytics. And so we've worked with several clients on being able to kind of stream their conferences or their events or their sermons and things like that via YouTube Live. Again, there's a bunch of different ones out there, but this one is completely free. And if you're going to be using YouTube a lot, you're most likely going to be uploading it anyways to YouTube. So this might cut out one of those steps for you. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have been hearing me, or if you've been listening, hopefully you guys have been hearing that I've been saying SEO and the impact of SEO and everything like that. This is one of those things where when people ask me today, hey, Ben, how do I improve my ranking, or what's kind of the hot new thing? That's always a popular question. And what I say is, honestly, it's not even necessarily the hot new thing because video has been out here, but it's really a huge competitive advantage. Studies have shown that a lot of times, most likely your competitors, probably less than 25% of your competitors, and depending on the size of your company and depending on your niche, maybe even lower. But, again, under 25% of businesses are utilizing, again, video on a consistent basis. So it's an extreme competitive advantage to not only go along with the stats that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation, but also it has a profound impact on SEO. So Google loves to see video because of some of those stats that we've seen. Google literally spends millions of dollars every year doing, again, market research to figure out what people like, because Google wants to take what people like and how they experience things and try to put that into algorithms. Like, for instance, why they want you to have a mobile website. Studies show that we'd rather see a mobile site than a non-mobile site. Why the speed of your site can be important, because people like to see fast sites. People like to see videos, so this is something that can really enhance your SEO. Also, it's kind of cool too, because if you can do your, again, get your videos optimized, get them to be connected kind of to Google and do some of those things. Now, nothing's a guarantee, just like, SEO just in general, but you can actually see on the right-hand side here that this is really the only type of content that will show up on a Google search that actually has a thumbnail attached to it. So that could be super powerful. Not only could your website potentially be showing up, or maybe it's a blog post, and then also your video, you can see that your eye can also go to it. So psychologically, you may not even be ranked #1, but you may be the first thing kind of seen as well. So just some kind of positive things. What's really kind of cool about video, and what really kind of becomes with a lot of these marketing kind of aspects, is that we do it maybe mainly for one thing. Maybe you're doing it for marketing and you want to expand and you want to elevate your brand. But what's really kind of cool is if we do it right, it also then helps us with SEO, and also helps us over here, and also helps us over here. That's what's kind of cool, is it has a multitude of benefits. And SEO is one of those large ones. And maybe you only decide to do videos because of SEO. That's okay too. It's just somewhere, somehow, as we kind of discussed here throughout the presentation, you should be doing video marketing along with your digital marketing strategy. YouTube analytics, just to let you know that you can, I'm not going to go over through all these, but just to kind of give you an idea, of course, just like Google Analytics that tracks your website, Facebook Analytics that tracks your Facebook business page, YouTube Analytics is going to be able to track your YouTube channel as a whole and also your videos. So one that I really like to kind of point out though is called retention. What's really kind of cool about this, and this is something you should pay attention to, is that what retention, again, tracks is that 1 second into your video, you have 100% of people still watching because they hit play and they're doing it. But what happens 27 seconds into your video? What happens 1 minute and 47 seconds into your video? How many people are still watching this? This is really important to kind of look at. Obviously, the length of your video, which we might get into which we will get into. I'm just saying some people might ask me that, but we'll get into that here towards the end. But really, the length of your video is going to be determined around, again, what's your video about? Again, if you're doing a how-to video, most likely it's going to be longer. If you're doing a commercial video, it should probably be smaller. But my point being, though, here with retention is you can start to kind of track and make sure, for instance, that, okay, if I only have 46% of people at the end of my video still watching, and that's where my call to action is, maybe that's an indication of maybe I need to redo the video. Maybe I need to move the call to action. Maybe I need, again, there's certain things that you can kind of glean from looking at the retention rate. But ultimately, again, just knowing you're never going to have 100% of people watch it from the beginning to the end. So this starts to help you kind of analyze that and put a value to that on, again, how many people are still watching it as they go along. Okay, so we've talked about YouTube, and the idea is, okay, so now what we've done is we have uploaded our video, we have optimized it, we've edited it, we've trimmed it, we've put audio on it, we've got it all excited, we've got, again, the call to actions, all of that kind of stuff. One thing about YouTube too is it not only, allows you to show all your videos, it's also almost like a storage for your video. So you can download a copy of your video at any time. So that's where we would do that first. It's always recommended. Then what we could do is we could download a copy of our video into like an MOV or MP4 type of style, and then upload that organically to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter and do a post about it. Now, yes, you can go to Facebook and put in your YouTube URL. That's okay. But this is what I usually tell people is, and this goes to kind of the two main points here, is we have SEO and marketing. So when it comes to YouTube, you're really getting both benefits. You're getting a long-term SEO benefit for having your videos on YouTube, but you're also getting a marketing benefit as well. Again, maybe embedding it into your site, having people view it, all that kind of stuff. But on Facebook or Instagram or social media as a whole, there's really not much of an SEO benefit. It's mainly just marketing because of the instance versus long-term. Your value on YouTube is going to be long-term. Most viral videos and things like that are found on YouTube usually are, 2, 3, 4 years old. And again, just normally with videos is you're going to start down here with 0, and then you're going to see, again, your video kind of increase over time, and you're going to build it just like a blog post, just like normal SEO. It takes time to kind of build up that momentum. On social media, it's really honestly it's the opposite. It's really different is when you upload your video to Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, just like how social media is, it's, again, what's going on right now. And then as time goes on, even hours to days to a week, most likely, is it just shifts down. And yes, it will live on your wall or, again, your profile, but at the same time, you're going to be constantly doing more posts. So what I'm saying though, is to take both of these strategies and put them together. Get the both instant and long-term value. Get both the SEO and marketing kind of value. And that's ultimately what I was talking about prior is like, this is why you want to actually upload the raw video file to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, because they all have their own video platforms. Yes, long-term, after you do this once, yes, you can reference your video at a later point. Again, talking about reusing content on, again, maybe 2 months later, you do a post and then maybe that time you actually just have your YouTube link. The reason you want to start with the video first, though, is this is how you get, Facebook and the other platforms to auto start playing your videos. Facebook wants you to upload the actual raw content there because it's better for them and their video platform. So again, just to reiterate that is, after we've done all this stuff with YouTube, to maximize the value of both is we download a copy and we would upload the first time at least the raw video file, and then ongoing, we could potentially then use the YouTube link to kind of reference that or do another post about that. Now, obviously, you might do this the reverse way of what I'm talking about if you're doing a social media live video. If you decide to go live on social media and do kind of a video there, you could then download that and kind of do it the reverse. But most likely for us kind of business, unless you're doing a very short, impromptu, maybe potentially even amateur on purpose kind of social media live video, most of us are most likely going to start with YouTube and kind of do what we just kind of did and take you through that whole process and then upload it to social media because we're looking for that long-term kind of benefit as well. So that's ultimately, when we look at this is if you have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and now you have YouTube, the idea is now maybe you took one of your blog posts that you wrote last year. Now we took one of those blog posts, we repurposed it into a video, and now we were able to distribute it via 5 different channels, via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're able now to try to get the max amount of exposure with that. So again, that's where it goes back to repurposing, reusing the different marketing messages and trying to get the best ROI. And we can do that by utilizing both YouTube and different social media platforms. Just something to kind of remember as we go along is, again, this kind of goes back to the distribution that we were talking about is, we put videos on our website, we get the SEO value. They can be very informational. We get them to stay 88% more time on our site. It helps with our reputation and brand because we're adding this kind of newer component that people like. On social media, we see a huge benefit in engagement and brand. It's something quick to kind of be able to engage with and do. Emails, they can be really kind of call to actions or take some people. You can't embed videos into an email, but you can say, hey, watch this, and you have a screenshot or a link or a button or something that goes to it. They can also be informational. So you can see that we can get different values or understanding the different values as we distribute them, even in different marketing channels, not just the digital marketing channels, but the actual kind of foundational channels that we may operate on via websites and social media and email and things like that. Again, trying to get the max out of it. So with that said, I know we've got some questions in here and I've been looking at them. So guys, I'm just about ready to kind of answer those. So just as a recap again is, talking about the growth of video, that 2/3 of people would rather watch a video than read, again, a piece of content. Taking some of those stats and realizing why video is important. Looking at, making sure we have that keyword laden description, that the title, being able to edit our videos, looking at our analytics, remembering that there's really no secret sauce for a length of a video. We're talking about it really kind of determines what is your video about. Now, I will say a lot of times with commercial styles and things like that, you can be around the 15 to 30 seconds. But you can see here, if you go on Skol Marketing, we have hour-long videos because we have workshops like this. So you also have to kind of remember that, but also potentially utilizing retention rate to kind of help you decide maybe what is the best length of video for you as well. And then last but not least is remembering to utilize social media to help distribute those, uploading that raw file, not just the link, but then in future iterations or future posts, then potentially then switching back and using that YouTube link. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and answer questions here, guys. If you guys have any more, feel free to plop them into the chat and I'd be more than happy to answer them. Sorry, so a couple of these questions I already answered at the beginning. So one of them is, I don't understand where to place the laden title and the laden description. So it's really going to be the section that literally says title and the section that says description. So you can see right here, it says title right at the top of the title there, and then it says description. So you're really just going to follow along with what Google says, but the title of your video is it's going to clearly state, fill in the title here. The description of your video is going to have a description right next to it. So it's the actual sections of either when you're uploading your video or going back into your video library. So next question was, does it matter what the file name of the video is named in regards to SEO? No, actually. So it's more of it's not the file name, it's actually just the title name. And this may be referencing to, again, one kind of technique that's sometimes utilized is you name different images with different types of file names, and that can actually help. And there is some, truth to that. But on videos with YouTube, it really doesn't matter what your file name is. It's more or less going to be some of the descriptions that we kind of talked about. So one of them, another person asked, does YouTube allow voiceovers or does that have to be done before adding video into YouTube? No, so you absolutely can do editing off-site of YouTube as well. You don't have to use YouTube's editing software. So if you want to use Adobe Premiere and lay over your voiceover, absolutely you can do that. You can, again, do some of the audio layover inside YouTube, but you don't have to utilize any of those tools that I talked about. They're just an option for you. So I have a question from Laura that asks, do you have any favorite video editing software for light editing? So the ones that I usually a lot of times utilize is, I do utilize Adobe Premiere, but it's a little bit higher. It's kind of like Photoshop, so it kind of just depends. But for me, just for simply kind of chopping off videos or something like that, I don't even utilize that. I just utilize QuickTime, or I utilize Google just to be able to quickly splice those videos. Sometimes the other ones can be kind of an overkill. Laura also had a question of how secure is the unlisted visibility option in YouTube? Great question. So when you upload a video, there are 3 different types of kind of visibility, again, levels that you essentially get to determine for it. So the first level is public. That's obviously anybody can search for it, anybody can find it. Most likely that's where most of your videos are going to be. You also, though, on the other end have private, meaning that when you click private, you have to invite individually everyone with their email address, and they have to be logged into that email address on YouTube in order to view it. But what we can also see is in the middle is called unlisted. Essentially, what unlisted does is that it doesn't show up in your video library and can't be searched for. Someone has to be able to send them a URL. Now they can share it with whoever they want, but you just have to have the URL to be able to access the video. So, again, when we talk about security and things like that, it's not necessarily more or less secure. It's just knowing that it's, again, like they have to have the URL to be able to view it. They don't have to necessarily be logged in. They don't have to do anything like that, but they can also go ahead and share it, again, along with it. So then Lisa has a question here. Should I share my YouTube links on GMB, Google My Business? And so one of the things that I would say with that is you can actually upload, again, you could share some of your YouTube links on there, but honestly, I would probably reserve more of your, your video links more for social, unless it's maybe an announcement or a video that's kind of coming up, because Google My Business type of post that you're kind of talking about, and those are called Google Posts. Those are more for kind of announcements or things like that. And so if you do have a video that's maybe announcing there, you could upload that video there and be able to kind of have that. But more often than not, you would kind of maybe like the links that maybe you're talking about for long-term videos would probably be best served for social and YouTube. So does anybody have any final questions for me? While we kind of wrap that up, and as we kind of wrap that up, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. If you have some more questions, obviously, please put them in. But while we just give people one last opportunity to be able to ask their last questions, I do want to say thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys took away something useful from this and kind of apply it to your business and to your business strategy. If you guys do have some questions, I encourage you. Again, we do offer free consultations. This isn't a sales pitch. If you want to talk about our services, awesome, we can schedule time. I just know that you can kind of tell that there's a lot of if and buts, and it depends on your industry and things like that. So if you have more questions and want to talk a little bit further, feel free just to kind of reach out, and we can do free consultation. And it's really just our way of giving back, that you get more just information to be able to kind of, go further in depth this. Maybe you want me to check to make sure your channel settings are correct. Maybe you want to go over editing a video, any of that kind of stuff. Again, it's just something we do to kind of give back. If you do want to talk about our services, that's also great too. Please reach out. We'd love to work with you guys and be able to help you. But ultimately, the last thing I want to leave you with is looking at our future workshop schedule. If you like these types of workshops, 2 things. I encourage you to check out our workshop schedule at skolmarketing.com/workshops. You can also see pre-recorded, or past recorded, I should say, presentations that we've done in the past, over the past, again, couple years, and we date them, so we're always updating as well. And so you can kind of see our other past recorded presentations on our YouTube channel as well. So with that said, I think we actually did have a couple questions that came in. So I'm going to answer those, and then I'll let you guys go. So I had a question from Linda that says, any tips on getting more subscribers? So this is kind of a much bigger question, because there's a couple different ways that you can actually go after this. One way that I absolutely would make sure that you do is to have an end screen that has that subscriber kind of call to action. So, or excuse me, those end cards. And so, end screen, end cards, those types of ones, make sure that you have the subscriber one, but also you can look to actually set up a social campaign. You can set up a marketing campaign, email campaigns to actually be able to do it. So there's a lot more to that, but I would say is just like saying, hey, how do I get more traffic to my website? How do I get more likes or followers? It's almost approaching it from that perspective. So we obviously have to make sure we have content. We have sufficient amount of content, and we actually have a marketing strategy around it. Nathan, so you asked where can we learn more? So you can definitely go to our website at skolmarketing.com, and you can definitely learn more there. We have different blogs. You can see our YouTube channel. You can see our social channels. We're all about creating content and putting in your guys' hands to help you. Also, you can take advantage of our free consultation. We'd be more than happy to help you there as well. Lisa has a question. Do I share my YouTube videos onto my Facebook page? So yes, so we actually kind of talked about that. That was the one that we had discussed, again, one of the last screens that we talked about, that yes, you would download your YouTube video and upload it to Facebook to be able to kind of do that. And then for future ones, you would just then share your YouTube link as a way after you've posted that first one. So again, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys have a great day. I hope to catch you guys on a future workshop and hope to see you guys later. Thank you. Skol.
On behalf of SCORE, thank you, Ben, and hope everybody had an enjoyable time. You'll get an email with the scripts soon.